Photography must be one of the most confusing hobbies in the world. There are so many discussions on so many different topics and things can be very confusing, and I don't know how many times I had a discussion on PPI versus DPI. Two completely different things, but we all mix it up. PPI is all about pixels per inch, and pixel stands for picture element. A camera has a sensor, and a sensor has a horizontal count of pixels and a vertical count of pixels. And that's why we talk about a 15 megapixel camera, a 25 megapixel camera, and so on. A screen has also a certain dimension of pixels, horizontal and vertical, and it all depends on the screen you buy. But not only does the screen has X amount of pixels, it also has X amount of pixels per inch. So if you were to measure with a tape ruler the length of your screen, and you were then to divide the amount of pixels which you can find in your settings of your screen by the length in inches, then you know how much how much PPI pixels per inch you have. See, I even make the mistake stating it as the DPI. So then, you know this, and you can check this out. Do it, and then you can see if my story matches up. Measure the width of the screen, look it up in your settings, what the resolution is of your screen, horizontal, how many pixels you have, do the division, and you'll see that you're ending up at either 75 or 90 or 110 or some other number, if it's a retina screen, of pixels per inch. And that's also why if you work in Photoshop or Lightroom, that you can't show the full picture if you're at 100% zoom. It's impossible, right? So if your camera is 3000 pixels and you displaying the picture in full, then you will have 3000 pixels from left to right. But if you're running at 100 pixels per inch, that means you have to have a 30-inch screen to show it all. And that's why you have to pan around to see the picture. Okay, so pixels is a definition for screens, for sensors, and so on. It's about active picture elements. It has nothing to see with printing. Now, printers also have a certain resolution. And think about it like this way. If I was to have a picture in my hand and I had to paint that picture on a piece of paper, on a fixed piece of paper, and I was given 3 different brushes. A very big one, a medium one, and a small one right here, right? So this one. Then with the big one, I could paint a picture on the paper, but I wouldn't have not much resolution with it. It would be all pretty big and rough. I could do it with the middle one, that would be a little bit better. But the best one would be this little paintbrush. That would be great. So basically, a printer has the same thing. A printer has a print head, it has a nozzle, and it sprays ink dots on a piece of paper. And how many ink dots are sprayed on an inch? That's what we call dots per inch. Now, a very good printer has a high DPI, it uses these small brushes. And a cheap printer has a low DPI and it uses this big brush. Now, a drop of paint by a printer consists of many, many small ink droplets. Very small little pieces of ink. And they represent the colors of all your cartridges, basically. Some have 8 cartridges, some have 10, some have 6, whatever. And that's what makes up the color of that dot. How many dots you have per inch determines the granularity, how fine the print can be, but also how good the color nuance and the hue will be. So how does it all fit together now? So let's imagine we have a 3000 pixel wide picture, and we tell the printer, I want you to print at 100%. And the printer will take the file and it will divide the 3000 pixels by 300, and it will print you a picture of 10 inches. Why does it divide by 300? Well, that's because that's the default value for printing. 300 pixels per inch is considered a default. In some places in the world, people talk about 250, but overall, it's considered to be nowadays 300 pixels per inch as the default, the 100% print. Now, how many dots the printer will use, that's up to you, because you will have to set the resolution of the printer. So if you set the printer to 600 dots per inch, then it will take 1 pixel, and for every pixel in your digital file, it will print 2 dots. Okay? Now, if I tell the printer to print at 150 pixels per inch, then actually the printer will do so, and it will divide my 3000 pixel wide picture by 150, and now I have a picture which is 20 inches wide. So I actually doubled up the dimension of my picture. So let's see how that now works in practice. So I have my 300 pixel wide picture, and I tell the printer, hey printer, print at 300 pixels per inch. I've decided to set my printer to 600 DPI to have a fairly good resolution on my printer. So now the printer will take that instruction from me, 300 pixels per inch. It will divide the total amount of pixels that I have in my print file by 300. That means my print will be 10 inches wide. And it starts to print. And it prints 600 dots per inch. Now, I only have 300 pixels per inch. That means that I will print 2 dots for every pixel. Okay? Right, so, but I'm not happy with the size of the picture, so the next picture I'm going to print will be twice the size. So I tell the printer, hey printer, why don't you print at 150 pixels per inch? So the printer goes in and he says, okay, I've got your 3000 pixels for your picture from your print file. I divide it by 150. That gives me 20 inches. So it will print across 20 inches. It's still printing at 600 dots per inch. Now, it prints now 4 dots per pixel. And if I go back one more step and I tell the printer to print at 75 pixels per inch, then my size becomes a double again, and it becomes 40 inches of wide, my picture. It still prints at 600 dots per inch. But now 8 dots are starting to reflect 1 pixel. And the problem you're getting now is this kind of mosaicing, the forming of blocks, and your picture starts to look ugly. This is how that works. Now, it doesn't help to increase the DPI value. It doesn't help at all. It's just more resolution, more dots. So it doesn't really matter. It's still going to be the same. So that's the difference between DPI and PPI. PPI is all about pixels per inch, and it's all about screens and LCDs and sensors and all that, and it determines on a printing device how big the picture will be. DPI is all about the capability of a printer to print lots of detail. And that's it. Nothing more, nothing less. So the next time the print shop is asking you to deliver a picture in DPI, tell them to look at this video. Thank you for watching.